Well, there's a history here. And the history really is, I really didn't focus on extracurricular or extra type of materials that were going to go out to the wrestling people. So it's unusual, unlikely that this Competitor Supreme came out in 1992, 1993, or something like that. I don't know when it came out exactly, but it came out during that time because those were the athletes that were being filmed. And so when it came out, it's like I'm still a coach. And most of the time, it's like I had a book by Human Kinetics Publishing, Coaching Wrestling Successfully. And it's still there. It's a good book. It's a little outdated in its freestyle skills, not skills, but the rules. Otherwise, it's a good book. But it's like this company, Human Kinetics Publishing, wanted me to do this for years. And I told them, as soon as I get done, I'll do it. So as soon as I stepped down in after 97, I worked hard on it for a year, and it probably came out about a year later, even though they wanted it much early. So this Competitor Supreme actually was not done by me initially. I mean, I didn't go out and try to plan all this. There was a group of brothers actually, two brothers. One of them was wrestling on the wrestling team, named Eric Hennigan, who was just probably stepping down from wrestling, and he started a computer company. And I'm not exactly sure. And I invested in that company thinking, okay, these guys can go and start doing some things that maybe would be good for me, but I don't have to do the work. I don't have to do much of the brain work or anything like that. So these Hennigan brothers actually started a company, and I funded that company actually, and which gave them opportunities to buy computers and do a lot of work and projects. So they actually followed the Hawkeyes. They did a lot of work. They did a lot of the thoughts, and it turned out very well. I mean, not just for the sport of amateur wrestling, but it turned out very well for somebody wanting to be entertained, somebody wanting to see spectacular type of wrestling, good highlights, somebody wanting to learn like important areas of concern to be good at sport or wrestling specifically. So these guys had a ton of tape, ton of footage, and they put it together really well. And the funny thing was, it wasn't just a hit in the wrestling area, and it just doesn't get outdated. And a lot of the things that were in there are exciting, and a lot of the things that for companies or teams, or I believe one of the professional football teams, they used to use a segment every week, the coach. And because they were telling me about it, and I'd get some input back from them. And, so it was one of these things that I really didn't have to take time away from my athletes or focus on something else instead of focus on the athletes and winning and being successful in your program. Had a couple kids that were doing it. And sure, that was taking up a little time, but it's like in my whole career. My last year of my college career, they followed me around. Not this group, a group that was doing graduate school at ABC Wide World of Sports came back to Iowa State. Two guys, and they actually did a documentary on me called The Champion. Didn't turn out very good because the ending was I lost, but it was a good 30-minute videotape. So just like this Competitor Supreme. And then in my last year also, which is amazing that we had a record performance in 97, which it didn't look like we were going to win, but there was another guy named David Gould who was doing a documentary on me. And I was also crippled up. By that I mean I had a surgery, I was on crutches, and so there was a lot of things going on, but I told Hennigans, I told Gould, I told the Champion guy back in 1970, 69 and 70. I said, I don't even want to know you're there. I don't even want to know you're there. In fact, there was another guy, now that I think about it, that wrote a book on me in that last year. The season on the mat, Dan Gable's last season on the mat. I can't think of the name of it right now, but Nolan Zavarol was the author, and I told him, just like I told the other ones, I don't want to even see you around. You know, when there's downtime, we can talk, we can do this, we can do that. But I wanted to focus on my team as much as I could. And what's funny is everybody abided by the rules except season on the mat. That was the name of it. I was having to kind of remind him that I don't want to see you, because he'd show up in the front row, you know, like in my talks at practice. Really, he should have been behind. And I think I got him to do that, but it took him a while. It took him a while to understand that my focus is not on this, but, you know, I looked, and I actually kind of looked at Competitor Supreme and already been successful. I looked at that movie Champion, and, you know, it was pretty good my last year in college. So now this book, I wanted to be good. And, so, you know, things have worked out. What's funny is there's only been one major setback, and that really didn't happen and that was my loss with Owings in 1970. It wasn't like the guys bothered me, you know, at that, you know, during that event or up to that time. They just caught me nonchalant wise. They were just there. They stood by themselves. It didn't come out right. But that's not what really got to me. You know, maybe it could have been part of it, because I ended up doing a lot of interviews during those 3 days. And during those 3 days, the interviews were by ABC's Wide World of Sport mostly. And some of the things that were the festivities of the event in my senior year in college. So maybe I got too used to doing some of this stuff away from the real important area. And so I got accustomed to being interviewed more. And so maybe I didn't know when enough was enough, and I should tend to focus and detail. And so that's why, you know, maybe one of the reasons I got beat. But